back again to nitpick a movie that I saw recently that I like quite a bit. I last nitpicked Scream 6. We're going a little bit more intellectual here with the movie Tar by Todd Field and Cate Blanchett. First of all, I liked it quite a bit. The more the time goes on, the more I like it because it left so many things unsaid, and the more time I sit with it, the more I realize how tasteful and how interesting and how intriguing and how well done it is that they didn't say all the things that they didn't say. But there's this moment in a scene that is simultaneously the best and the worst scene of the movie that really bothers me. And I want to explain it partly because, I'm an academic. And that means that I know how the academic world works. So this classroom scene has a glaring flaw that I can't really forgive. I should probably back up a little bit and talk about my sort of general issue with the movie. It intentionally uses a lot of obscure jargon in the world of conducting and composing and classical music. And I think it does it on purpose because it doesn't really matter what they're saying. But sometimes I understand what they're saying. I have studied a little bit of classical music. And as an example, they talk about Jean-Baptiste Lully, the guy who did the music for Bourgeois Gentilhomme, a play I've written about and published on and all that. And the thing that she says about Lully is the most simple, basic fact, little bit of trivia. It's it got me wondering, is everything that's being said in this actually just the most surface level conversation about classical music? Or is this actually fairly deep? So that brings us all to the question of the classroom scene. If you haven't seen it, there's actually a very good video on YouTube. I'll include a link to it in the description where it describes why it's such a great scene. And it certainly is. It's 10 minutes of unedited filming. So just one shot, very hard to do. Wonderful acting, very well staged, okay? And it's Tar giving a class to a Juilliard master's class in composition. So people getting their masters in music composition. One of the top schools in the country, absolute top, tippity top of the academic ladder, okay? And she's giving this lesson, and she comes up against this student. And the student tells her that he doesn't like Bach, and he's never listened to Bach, and doesn't have any opinions on Bach. And that's the most frustrating. That would never happen. It would have been more realistic if he turned into a dragon and flew away. It is the most fantastically unreal thing you could possibly imagine in an academic setting at that level. It would be like watching someone getting their doctorate in English theater and someone asking, what do you think about Shakespeare? And being like, I don't know, I hate dudes with mustaches. It would just never happen. And part of the reason why it's so troublesome to me is that it's this myth about what higher education is. I'm a professor and people attack me all the time as being some kind of woke guy who's trying to turn kids into Marxists and all that stuff. All I'm trying to teach is critical thinking, right? That's all I try to teach. That's it. Critical thinking. I don't care what you think, just think critically about it. And that obviously leads to discussions of systematic injustice and all that. But there's no attempt to turn kids into mindless snowflakes, mindless drones, or robots, as is said in the movie. My problem isn't with the conflict. It's that this conflict would not exist at that level. So he says, the student says, because he is a person of color and because he is not a cis-het male, he cannot relate or listen to the music of Bach. Now, there is no way you could reach that level of academic excellence and not have an opinion on Bach. That perspective, reducing an artist simply to their biographical details, is the lowest level of academic study. I once wrote a paper about Proust, and I mentioned the fact that he had asthma, and my teacher almost gave me an F, because biographical details are not the point. Are they gay? Are they straight? Are they white? Are they this? That's fine, but that's not academics. There was a show on Netflix called The Chair, which had a similar thing where it's supposed to be this Ivy League school, and these papers that these students were giving was and he was sleeping with a man, and that's not academia. It's just not. Now, there has been very positive progress made. The larger point is an interesting one, where the canon has expanded. The canon, meaning the accepted works, were only cis-het white males. Over time, in all fields, that's grown. So we don't just have Molière, Lully, You know, in my field, 17th century, we also have Madame de Lafayette. This is now considered to be one of the most important works of that century. And spoiler alert, it is. It's amazing. You know, we study Aimé Césaire, we study Marguerite Duras. We have enlarged the canon. But never in a million years would that conversation happen. It just wouldn't. It is way too simplistic of an argument for somebody who has achieved that much. So therefore, he becomes a straw man, just totally taking me out of the movie. Because I'm agreeing with her, because there's no way that someone should be at that level and say that they don't study probably the most important early composer of all time because he had a lot of kids. You don't get there by doing that. So that's my nitpick. But it's a great movie. It really is. It's sticking with me. I suggest you watch it. There's a lot more good things about it than bad things about it. I think a lot of my problems with it are good things because the character is so unlikable. And I think we're supposed to think that she's not as smart as she thinks that she is. Anyways, but come on. I don't like Bach. That just wouldn't happen. All right. There's my movie thought. Is anyone watching these? Okay.